Ignore the temporary setup and whatever's going on here. So I grew up with an N64 and never had a PlayStation, and because of that, I missed out on a lot of the games that were exclusive to that console, including Spyro. I always did want to check out the Spyro games, and now with the release of the Reignited Trilogy, I can do it in glorious HD. So of course, to celebrate, let's check out some stuff that is not the Reignited Trilogy. So the first thing I managed to find is this 2D platformer based on Spyro. Now, I thought the game was just broken right from the start. Stuff seemed very off. It had me collecting pieces of what I can only assume is celery, and every time I collected one, the horribly repetitive music would speed up, increasing each time I'd collect one. So I went around collecting every last thing I could, and yet there was still a locked door that I couldn't open, holding an orb that I needed to complete the stage. The key was hidden in this little room that, as far as I could tell, can't be accessed. It was after about 10 minutes that I realized something wasn't right, and I was almost positive that I couldn't progress. So, apparently, I hadn't realized that I actually downloaded an April Fool's build of the game. God damn it. Okay, here's the real game. It actually doesn't control too bad. That being said, though, the experience is pretty bare bones in general. Spyro's sprite is pretty cute, but I'm not super into the whole cheap, blocky sprite art style. It reminds me of about a million mobile games. One big issue I did run into, though, was... Okay, so you can use the shift key to charge, but do any of you know what happens when you press the shift key too many times too quickly? Yep, it's fucking bullshit. It happened a few times, and eventually I just started being mindful of how rapidly I charged. So you go around collecting gems and orbs and shit, and every time you exit a level, it starts you all the way back at the beginning of the hub world. Or, as I've recently started hearing, Homeworld. Is that what this is? Sorry, I'm not too educated on my Spyroisms. Anyway, you start at the beginning, and because it's a 2D linear path, it's pretty annoying. I eventually got to a level where I hit a path and just couldn't figure out how to progress. I would have tried a little harder to figure out a way to the end, but... Alright, so the music in this level is... How do I put this? I don't know how many music people are watching right now, but for those of you who are... I'm sure you know exactly what I mean when I say the background music was so dissonant that it made me consider stabbing myself in the ears with a pencil. Here you go. Here's a tech demo for a game that's supposedly titled Spyro Ripto's Return, otherwise known as 5.25.14. After a quick disclaimer stating that what we're about to play is merely a tech demo, we start to control Spyro in a world of stunning, vibrant visuals. But not before first having the camera drive me to the brink of vomiting. I was using a controller, but for some reason the camera was still being controlled by the mouse. Problem is, I was using a trackpad, so I don't know what the fuck the game thought was happening, but the camera would not stop spinning. Eventually I got it to stop, but I have no idea what I did. Once I got it to stop, I started moving Spyro around, and the controls honestly weren't the worst thing I've ever experienced. So I went around the stage, collecting all the gems I could see, making my way to the end of the stage. I got to the end of the stage, and there was what looked to be a portal that doesn't take you anywhere or end the stage. I get that it's just a tech demo, but I thought maybe I missed something because I know there was at least one gem in this weird spot that's hard to get to, pretty close to the end, so I went back, fucked around with jumps till I eventually got it. But once again, nothing. So I went back again to see if I missed anything else. Turns out I missed a bunch of gems that were hidden in multiple beds of flowers, so I went back and collected all of them. Didn't do shit. Wasted my time. Great. Also, the timer just kind of stopped once it hit 4 minutes and 53 seconds. I'm not sure why it stopped at that particular time. I'm guessing they assumed no one would play this shit for upwards of 5 minutes. This one's a hot pile of trash. The camera refuses to move, so it's just fixed at one angle. Spyro moves and jumps and shoots fire, but has no animations for anything other than what should be his idle animation. I'm having a hard time even thinking of what I can say about this because the whole thing is like a fever dream. After wandering around aimlessly for a while in this gigantic, creepy field because I couldn't see where the fuck I was going, I managed to make it into a stage. It's like a swamp or a forest or something, I guess. Also, the water hurts you, and I'm not sure how you're supposed to collect this crystal thing, but I just bum rushed my way through the murky bullshit and collected it. I got teleported to a pretty high part of the level, but because I couldn't see a goddamn thing, I immediately plummeted to the ground. There was no fall damage though, so everything seemed fine until this horrifying nightmare showed up. Nope. Anyway, I couldn't progress or anything, and I kept dying, so there you go. So there's a game that was in development called Spyro Artisans Revisited, which was essentially supposed to be an HD remake of Spyro, but according to the dev, with the upcoming release of the Reignited Trilogy, the project has since shut down. The original version of the game never had a playable demo released, but they did release this Christmas-themed one. Now, there isn't much to do, and it's just a small sandbox to play around in, but honestly, I kinda like the aesthetic of this a little better than the Toys for Bob remake. It could be the fact that it's winter-themed and there's pretty vibrant, colorful shit that pops because of the amount of white surrounding it all, but even the clips I've seen of the original build of this game I like more. The Reignited Trilogy looks great in its own right, but it seems to use a lot of warm lighting and tones, and I'm all about cool colors. It's a shame this game will never be finished because it actually controls pretty well and might have been halfway decent. Although, to be honest, Activision probably would have ended up shutting this down anyway. Video games are fun. Alright. This one isn't really a Spyro fan game. I mean, it is, but it isn't. But come on, it totally is. Instead of a dragon, you're a robot kitty. It's as if they took everything about Spyro and just changed the aesthetic, but kept everything else. Now, I didn't get to play too much of it. I'm not sure if maybe I missed something, but as far as I could tell, I was only able to mess around in the Homeworld and also enter one other level. To be honest, I was actually surprised upon entering the level. There wasn't a ton to do, but what was there was definitely fun, and there were actual clear-cut goals that I was able to figure out through play. Basically, I didn't feel like I was just wandering around for no goddamn reason. I felt like I was making actual progress. I really like the aesthetic of everything, especially the amount of solid colors used as opposed to texturing. It made it feel very cartoony and made everything really pop, which reminded me a lot of the Luncheon Kingdom from Super Mario Odyssey, which I also loved, aesthetically anyway. It controls really well too, and to my surprise, this is probably the first time I didn't hate swimming controls in a game. I actually have nothing to make fun of. This is really good, and I hope they continue, because I'll play the shit out of it. Well, I knew I shouldn't get too comfortable after playing something actually decent. What the hell is this? It's a bad attempt at a Spyro RPG complete with bad controls and dirty PNGs. Also, is that just straight up a whole-ass gorilla? What are we doing here? It doesn't take long before you get to this big fight where you have to knock out wave after wave of apes with no healing, and because there really isn't any actual strategy here, just kind of sat here spamming the same button over and over until I won each fight. Spyro and Sparks can attack individually, just like you would in a good RPG with a party system, but that's about it. You gotta fight off a bunch of apes in separate fights until the last one, where you have to fight a couple small ones, and then this big-ass one, which I guess is their leader. He laid me out, and the couple items I had that could heal me didn't do shit. Good night, sweet prince. And so, we've reached the last stop on this train, but don't you worry, I've saved the best for last. I'm just kidding, you guys are gonna suffer through this shit just like I did. Spyro's FNAF Adventure. No amount of anything could have prepared me or given me even the slightest idea that this exists. If you haven't already caught on, this is a Spyro the Dragon, Five Nights at Freddy's crossover fan game, and I think maybe the only thing worse than the entire concept of this is the writing that lies within. Spyro, come, am here. Am coming, Dad. So from what I can gather, your dad, who is apparently Ignitus, is going away. He tells you he's only leaving for maybe a year, but as this scene is set 3 years prior, we know that's not the case. Cut to present day, and we're randomly in a room with the animatronics from Five Nights at Freddy's. Okay, we talk to Freddy and he tells us, "Hey Spyro, why you don't take a look to the security guard? And if you're wondering why, we gonna finish him." So naturally, I'm gonna take a look. There's some quick dialogue, which I guess is from the security guard, followed by our friendly neighborhood phone guy. Hello. I'm gonna tell you what you need to know for tonight. The security guard's existence is short and Bonnie fucking kills him. Also, Foxy tries to tell us a story and Spyro straight up shuts him right down. Poor guy. Anyway, a mysterious black figure appears and tells us to follow it into a room that you can't escape from. And the only thing we can do now is talk to Golden Freddy and then die. But the game doesn't immediately end. We get transported to the spirit world where we then are told that we can't be brought back to life. It's only then that you game over. And I reloaded my save 3 more times. There's nothing else you can do. Now, I would have thought it ended there, but lo and behold, they made a second one. So this one picks up where the last one left off. The mysterious figure turns out to actually be Springtrap, who is about to attack Spyro until Foxy saves him. Once we're back in the main room, you can talk to Freddy and find out some information about what's going on. Also, if you talk to Chica, let me just let you see for yourself. So this is kind of funny. If you go back and talk to Foxy and ask him to tell you his story that you blew off in the first episode, he's straight up like, nah, fuck you, dude, you had your chance. So then Markiplier shows up, and then you start playing as him. So we're Markiplier now, and the animatronics try to kill him, but Spyro jumps in the way, and then ends up in the hospital, and all the animatronics get scolded for hurting him. And then you choose whether or not to let Mark live, and then Mark gets named the king of Five Nights at Freddy's, but then Springtrap tries to— Okay, I'm done here. Hey, thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, maybe go ahead and click that like button and subscribe to see more. If you want to see more right now, there's a couple videos right there you can check out. And if you want to help me live, my Patreon link is right there too. Toodles.